Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Welcome back, friends. Today we drove a few hours east from my hometown of Eau Claire to Green Bay, Wisconsin, Lambeau Field to be specific. We were just there a little bit ago to hang out with a player from the Green Bay Packers. I'm personally a huge Packers fan, so having a player on the show has been a goal since the beginning. Finally, for season 10, we're here. Welcome to the show, tight end for the Green Bay Packers, Dominique Dafney. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate you. It's funny that you said you've never even been in the space that we're at, but It's like this dope little lounge.
I mean, it looks really nice, I won't lie.
Yeah, you're going to have to pregame down here now. So in your own words, who are you and what are you passionate about?
In my own words, just laid back dude who is just, like you said, is just passionate about everything that I do, honestly. When it comes to music, grew up playing music, whether it was in a drill team, that I gave my all for that.
Like drums?
Yeah.
Like Drumline?
Yeah, literally I was about to say like the movie with Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
I did that from like age 4 to 15, 16 years old. And obviously was passionate about that. That was like every week thing. Like I did that all the time. And then played the saxophone a little bit.
Tenor, alto?
Alto.
Sick. I played tenor, so we're right there.
Yeah.
Dope.
And then of course sports, grew up playing football, basketball, baseball, ran track in high school. So everything I do, I try to kind of be passionate about it and put everything I have towards it.
Yeah, I think to be a professional athlete, you have to have that drive to be 100% all in, which we'll get to it. But for people who aren't familiar with you, obviously they can just tune in on Sundays and hopefully they'll see some. But how can people best follow you, see what you do, maybe catch highlight reels or whatever? And how could they reach out to you if like after this, they're like, Chris just cut you off during this thing, I need to know the answer. How would they get a hold of you?
Instagram, Twitter. That's probably the best two versions, I'd say.
I need to learn how to use Twitter. So it's Dominique_Dafney.
Yes. Dominique. Yes.
It has the blue check.
It does, yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Like I've literally searched for other people with the same name just because I'm curious, and I haven't found one, unfortunately. But
yeah, see, Chris Johnson, like me getting to the point of being the most famous Chris Johnson to have the blue check is just unrealistic and never going to happen. CJ2K kind of took that from me.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a goal.
I know you grew up a Panthers fan, which thankfully, like we're not huge competitors with them, so that's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
But at some point you moved to Iowa. I don't really know during that, obviously that's a long period of time, right? But you were born there. At what point did you move to Iowa? What did growing up kind of look like? Where were you even?
Well, I grew up there. I have like small memories from it, but the only reason I moved back is because that's where the entire side of my mom's side lives.
Oh, okay.
So we moved out there because my dad had a job.
In North Carolina?
Yeah. Okay. So then we had to move back to Des Moines, Iowa, because obviously my mom wanted to work still.
Sure.
And obviously my whole mom's side of the family was there.
How old were you at that point?
Like 3 or 4. So I always make a joke because I went to daycare, or it was either daycare or preschool twice because I had to come
you
back.
Repeated a grade?
Pretty much. I repeated preschool. So I was like, oh, wow, I guess that's pretty weird. But yeah, I came back, and obviously home base will always be Iowa. But obviously growing up, it was traveling with whether it was sports, plays, musicals, band.
Were you
stuff.
in musicals and stuff?
Oh yeah.
You did all that too?
Oh yeah. Grew up very artsy.
Oh,
Big
cool.
time. Was in musicals, plays, was in dance, and no, I do not mean ballet. I mean like tap, jazz, hip hop, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Did that, and then I kind of moved more into like a sports kind of. Everything was sports.
At what age were you at just doing sports that you no longer did dance and all that?
Like 4th, 5th grade. I think 4th grade was my last year I did any type of dance.
Did you do like I guess recitals, right?
Yeah,
the competitions and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, in like June.
Wild. I interviewed this dude, Marcus Shields. He does choreography for a lot of like huge people. Like he did some stuff with Mariah Carey, which is dope. But he's out in LA, and you were just saying you're going out to LA.
Yeah,
could totally connect you with him. Show you his dance moves. That dude, that dude rips. Okay, so you did all the different sports, but you were most heavily in basketball and football, I imagine. Was it those the two? Based on other interviews I've been listening to. then at 4th, 5th grade, you were playing still all the sports. At what point was it that you kind of like dropped to just those two?
Well, I started with basketball, football. I started playing baseball in like 4th grade, which was why I had to stop doing dance, because you can't do all that at the same time.
Sure, conflicting schedules. Yeah.
So that's when I chose baseball and did that until middle school. I was going to play in high school, but I just decided not to, and that's when basketball and football were the main, and then I just added track junior year just because I wanted to stay in shape during the off season. And I mean, it's a bunch of running, so obviously get ready for football season.
Were you in like a D1 type high school then, like for those sports? Or
in Iowa, it goes by A's, so like the bigger the A, the bigger the school. So we were 4A. I think the biggest is 5.
Okay,
so in Iowa it is.
When you were then going through high school, were you like one of the studs on the team, like a standout at that point?
Yeah,
I would assume. Okay,
yeah.
So then when college hit, I know we're kind of like speeding through here a little bit, but at college, you ended up going to a community college. So you must not have been like that crazy of an all-star in high school that you got recruited. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And why did you go where you went?
Recruiting was a little different. I mean, I had all the numbers to be someone who could have been recruited higher. I just don't think the recruiting process went as well as it did. And then, of course, with me wanting to play basketball until I was like a sophomore in high school, like I was behind everybody else when it came to recruiting. So having to push
football,
her,
Okay.
Because like when I was, usually when you're in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, like people are already going to camps.
Oh,
and they're already pushing their name out there.
Sure.
Whether it was like football camps, like they have like the quarterback camps, lineman camps, all that stuff. Like people are already going to those in middle school. And I didn't start that until my junior year. So I'm behind the curve already. Because while I was doing that, or while everybody else was doing that, I was going to basketball camps.
Yeah.
And while I was getting traction with basketball, once the junior year hit, I was like, nah, I think I want to play football. So that kind of put me behind the curve very much. And then obviously had a really good year, junior year, senior year, even better than that. But they're just recruiting wasn't that great. And then of course, well, you go to Iowa, like the state of Iowa now, the recruiting is, you got 5 stars, 4 stars, 3, all this.
Sure, yeah.
Back then, it really wasn't that much.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, things have progressed.
Progressed quickly. A lot. So then there wasn't really much traction there. So then I felt like I had to go to a JUCO in order to kind of just continue to push my name out there and see what more I could get. And then obviously JUCO happened where I did not enjoy it at all.
Was it a school that did you go to that school intentionally because you thought that program was something you would get noticed from?
It was one of the best JUCOs in the country.
Okay, which one is that? I don't pay attention to. I'm a huge Packers fan, but I don't pay attention to like all the college program stuff. So
it was. I mean, JUCO's kind of like it hasn't really been that big, as well as like they got Last Chance U, like that TV show on Netflix.
Okay.
Like that is brand new. So even before then, people never really paid attention to junior colleges. So even like they were one of the best junior colleges in the country, and they had literally just been to the national championship the year before I was there.
Gotcha.
And obviously it's in Iowa, so they were recruiting me pretty heavily. So I was like, okay, maybe I can come here, play a year, get my name out there some more, get some more traction. I could go somewhere. But obviously I went there, and I just didn't like the JUCO experience at all.
What was so horrible about it? I mean, I'm sure there was good things about it, but
if you ask anybody who went to JUCO, it is the most. You ever heard the term getting it out the mud?
No.
Well, this is getting it out of the cement. Like it is extremely grimy. It's like everybody's fighting to get out of there. Players, coaches, trainers. Like the whole point to go there is to leave.
Yeah, there's no prima donna experience.
There's no. Unless you're like a bounce back, which is like the people who say go to your LSUs, Florida States, and they transfer from there, go to a JUCO, and then go somewhere else. Sure. If you're not one of those guys, it's gonna be a little tough for you.
So you were only there 1 year?
Just 1 year.
Okay, so how did you get out of there? Were you recruited heavily out of there then?
I didn't, like I said, I didn't enjoy it. So when I got that first, I had a preferred walk-on to Iowa. They were like, yeah, we want you to walk on. I'm like, all right, that's all I need to hear. And I'm there.
Is that just like they call you for a tryout that day? Like they're inviting you to try out, or how's that work?
When they ask you to be a walk-on, like that's like you're on the team, but you're just a walk-on player. So when they told me that, I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. That's fine.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm sure anything to get out of there. Anything
I was ready to go. I was ready to get out of there.
What positions did you play at the time? Because I know, like, in general, you're just like an athlete, right? Because you played every sport. You played basketball heavy. What did you do in basketball? Were you like a forward?
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm only 6'2", but I played like the 4.
Sure.
Which obviously in any high school basketball, if you're like the strongest person on the court, they're going to stick you into the paint, which is what they did with me and my older brother. Sure.
But then you realized at some point, you're like, I can't play this position.
Oh, no, I told my coaches, I'm like, I'm not a 4. I'm going up against dudes who are like 6'5", 6'6".
We had
wouldn't make sense
in my tiny little town. Well, I guess I'm saying that, and we're sitting in Green Bay, which is not a big town.
Not at all.
But Eau Claire is like a top 10 biggest city in Wisconsin, which doesn't mean much. It's like 69,000 people. But our high school recruited a kid who was 6'11" when he was a freshman in high school for our basketball team. And the dude just looked like a spider in the hallways because he weighed nothing. He ended up going on, I can't remember what his name is right now, but he ended up going on and playing for the Badgers. Just, I think, mostly because he was super tall. But we actually had that guy, like, who was actually tall in high school. But I imagine a lot of those skills and stuff translated. So, but in football, I know you didn't play like tight end, right? You were playing running back and you were playing receiver, or what were you playing when you were doing JUCO and then Indiana
I played
State?
Receiver up until 2020. Oh, okay. I played a little Wildcat quarterback at Indiana State.
Oh, so we need trick plays that you throwing the ball then.
I mean, they did have a couple where I could have thrown it, but mostly I was just running the ball. But beyond that, high school to 2020, high school to 2020, I was playing receiver.
Oh, okay, cool. What did you go to college for? Because you graduated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you graduate with?
A major in health and human physiology and then a minor in human relations.
So if NFL didn't work out, which I know is like, it was just going to work out. Like, I understand the mindset, but if it didn't work out,
I wanted to be a physical therapist.
Oh, okay. So just to like be around the sport kind of?
Yeah. I mean, not even that. It's just, I don't know. I fell in love with physical therapy from the time where I needed physical therapy for the first time, which was in middle school when I broke my foot. And like, I was going there and I was talking to him all the time and just asking him, like, because I didn't know what a physical therapist was. I'm like, what do you do? And he was like, we just work people out pretty much and get people better. I'm like, that's it? He's like, yeah, pretty much. But I'm like, he's like, obviously there's more to it. Yeah. But like in my middle school brain, that's like all he said. And I'm like, wow, this sounds amazing. It sounds like the dream. But of course, years in, like I learned more and more about it and just kept falling in love with what you did. And just definitely one thing that led me to it was just seeing people progress and get better. Like after every week, you know, every time they're in there, they're feeling better. They got more range of motion. The feeling on their face when they are able to just move more freely. That's kind of,
you're helping people.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to people all the time. It's like having a purpose like that. That's kind of the point of the show. Yeah. It's like finding something you're passionate about where you feel fulfilled. Like what I do actually matters. Like, of course, making money matters. Like you have to live, but like,
I mean, of course,
doing something that if nobody got paid, if you just didn't make money and if money didn't matter, you would still want to do this because like you had some
exactly
reason.
What I would do.
Yeah. And you know, it's cool because if you get a degree in something like that, a lot of people after the NFL, right? Like regardless of where you're at financially, let's say you become our starting tight end, like number one guy, and you sign George Kittle contract numbers and whatever. Eventually you retire and you still want to do something. Yeah. So it's nice to be able to have a degree in something. And, you know, with doing something in physical therapy like that, it's kind of like a mentor coach kind of role to people. You know, it's no longer your time to shine, it's their time to shine, and you want to help them shine. And I kind of have that role with my skate shop because I grew up and it was like, I'm not in a big city, so I'm not going to be a pro skateboarder. That's just, we don't have indoor skate parks and we're in Wisconsin. So you can't skate half the year. It's just not going to happen. But at a fairly young age, it kind of clicked with me that like, I don't care about being like skateboarding necessarily for a living as like a professional in that kind of way. I just want to be around skateboarding for a living. Yeah. And so that's where it was like, I can just own a skateboard shop and then I can be home and have my schedule dictated by me and have like consistent income, you know, and I can still go to all the contests and I can still be around all the events and everything. So you got your degree and all of a sudden, I don't really know the timeline of how everything happened with COVID. I mean, I know the general world timeline, but how did that work for you? Did you even play? Well, I suppose because it was in March that everything stopped. The season was over by then at Indiana State?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did that all play out as far as like draft day, like not getting drafted and then COVID hitting, it was all kind of around the same time frame, right?
Yeah, the draft is in like that end of April, May like time.
Yeah, okay. So then COVID had already happened.
Up till then, I was just like from December to probably like March till the day where the world pretty much shut down.
Yeah.
Like I was just working out, getting ready for our pro day we were going to have at Indiana State, and obviously that got canceled.
Right.
So then I was actually out in Arizona when everything was like, when they were canceling NBA, MLB, like every season, like they were canceling. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
With family or whatever?
Yeah, I was with one of my friends. We were down there training for a little bit.
Sure.
And then after that, I came home and was just trying to figure everything out and just trying to stay in shape because, I mean, I didn't have anything else to do. So I was trying to like work out and texting my agent every other day, trying to figure out like what's going to happen because no one really knew what was going to happen, and still trying to figure out like how I could like kind of have my own makeshift pro day, which is what I did. I ended up just going to my high school football field and just filming myself running routes and like doing all the tests we would have done if we had a pro day.
Yeah.
And then I just asked someone to edit that, put it together for me, and I kind of sent it out to all the teams, and I'd send it to my agent so he could send it out.
It's like a little sponsor me tape.
I mean, yeah, because there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing else we could have done. So it's just like I didn't want to just be sitting there doing nothing. Obviously, going a little crazy, just sitting in the house.
Yeah, for sure.
And getting kicked off of every football field within Iowa because we were trying extremely hard just to get a workout in. And then after that, it was just working out because, like you said, didn't get drafted, didn't get signed. So then we still didn't know what they were going to do for OTA purposes and whether or not they were going to have camp, whether or not there was even going to be a season, or whether they were going to like have people come out and do workouts. So it was pretty much just like from not getting drafted to like July, mid to late July, of just hearing nothing.
Who are you working out with? Did you have?
Just myself and some other friends who were also trying to play professional sports, not just football. Like one of my best friends, he had got drafted by the Brewers, and he was also in Arizona for spring training. And of course, we both had to come back home. So we were all just at the gym training every day, wake up 10 o'clock, go in there, get a workout in, leave at 3, go get some food, go hang out, go to sleep, wake up, do it all over again for probably like 3-4 weeks.
Where were you jumping fences? Because I know I listened to another interview. You're literally jumping the fence, and then the cops are coming
had
out.
to jump the fence at any like.
Did you switch it up so the cops didn't know where you were going to go?
Yeah, we went to a bunch. We were out in Altoona, we were out in Waukee, West Des Moines. Des Moines, these are all just cities in Iowa, if nobody knows, but
sure.
They were like high school fields. They were just like parks.
How many of you guys, did you have like a group chat and you were like, okay, today
we're all in
a
group chat, but yeah, it was like, are you guys trying to get a workout or you're trying to throw? One of my friends is a quarterback, so we got kicked off plenty of fields. One didn't make sense to me because we were at my high school field, and which is like a dome. It's not a dome, but we call it whatever. It's like enclosed, and we jumped that. Obviously the cops came and then told us we couldn't be in there, but we could be in the field that wasn't more than like 20 yards away. So it's like, what would be the difference?
Was it technically not on their property or something?
Well, it was like I know the principal, I know everybody
of course,
that works at the high school, and my mom is on the school board. So it's like, it's not really that big of a deal. But then I just didn't understand why it wasn't okay for us to work. Like they blamed it on COVID and said we can't be on this field, but we could be on the field that's like I could throw a football and hit this other field.
Sure.
So it's like, what's the difference between us? It's not like that the place was like domed up and we like it was secured. Like it was literally right next to each other. It just made no sense. So that was the weirdest one, but we got kicked off of plenty of places.
How did it feel being a grown man jumping fences with your friends and then the cops every day coming in? Did you ever worry about getting like actually fined, or were they really nice every time?
No, I mean they understood why we were doing it, and I'd explain why, and they're like, yeah, we get it. It's just they're kind of like, there weren't laws in place of that people needed to be inside, but they were kind of laws and like you couldn't be with more than 10 people.
Yeah.
Apparently, and like we were at another friend's. He had like a big grass area in his backyard, and he uses it to train. And he had like football equipment back there. So we were there.
Yeah.
We were probably like 20 people deep, which I mean, it's not really that crazy. And
Sure.
of course, the cops still came out there.
Yeah.
We're at this man's house.
Yeah. Private property. Dude.
You're kicking us out of his house. Like he's here throwing with us. He told us to come over, and you're kicking us out. They're like, yeah, you can't be with more than 10 people.
Yeah.
Like, why? What would it matter?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, though, as crazy as that is, like it was crazier in a lot of other places, right?
Yeah.
I interviewed Blank Johnson. He's a professional skateboarder for Santa Cruz, if you know that company. I feel like everyone's heard of it. But he had just moved to Barcelona, Spain, like right before the pandemic. His girlfriend or now fiance or whatever, I think she's from Sweden, but they were over there. And you couldn't leave your apartment unless you were going directly to the convenience store or to like the pharmacy.
Yeah.
And they had people out there with like assault rifles standing watching you and stopping you if they saw you walking too far down the sidewalk and didn't think you were actually just going straight to and from.
Yeah.
They would stop you with guns. It was like really gnarly.
It was pretty crazy for a while.
Thankfully things eventually kind of got figured out, and you ended up getting a call from the Colts. What does it look like when you get a call from that anyways? Because it's not like you have a contract or anything. You fly out, you just get a hotel room for a little bit, or what does the situation look like?
We had to, well, obviously we had to like quarantine for a little bit. And
Before
we had to
you could go.
Yeah. They flew us out, and we were like in hotels. And we had like a schedule where we had to get quarantine tested every day, and you had to get like 3 positives or something before you could even do the workout.
Okay.
So then after you were good with that, we did the workout. And then like if you got signed, you stayed. If you didn't, like you just went back home.
Yeah.
And then that was just for camp. So then when I got signed, they moved me to a different hotel, which was like the team hotel where everybody was staying. And then I was practicing with the team the next day. So I was there for like a week and a half for the end of camp. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it like then? I mean, if you didn't get signed and you're still maintaining the belief like this is still going to work, right? No matter what, I'm going to do this. You get on with them, but then you don't. Like what was it, like a really defeating feeling, or was there motivation there where you were like, I know I'm good enough to be on a team, this just isn't the right fit? Or what was the feeling
It was more defeating not getting signed, I would say, than getting told, like getting cut.
Okay.
Because obviously with there being no words spoken for like 3 months, like that's when like all the worry and anxiety jumps into your brain, because it's like, why am I still not hearing anything?
Sure.
So that was a different level of worry, and there was just a lot. You can ask my mom all about it. I told her.
Sure.
I told her everything, and that was worse. But then obviously when I got there and I was able to, compete against guys at that level, and I had an experience of being there and getting like that little small week and a half taste of it, that was probably the best motivation I could have had, because it's really what I needed just to keep going, because there were times during that summer where I absolutely wanted to just call it quits. And I honestly I'm not going to lie, I was actually, again, you can ask my mom, she was sitting there next to me. I was this close to going, and because I had, at Indiana State, I was doing graduate school classes. So I was this close to signing up for more classes for the fall.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, no, I'm just going to, sign up for classes, keep working out. And then I got the call there. And then after that little snippet, I was like, nah, we're back to going all in. It is what it is. And we had workouts, and I was just ready for whatever was next.
Was that about like the most humbling experience you can have, going from like a top dog kind of position in college to like,
of course,
I like am bottom of the totem pole I can grab in?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was gonna be hard either way,
right.
But it's just like you don't know how hard it's gonna be until you're actually in the situation.
What does it look like when you actually do get a call from someone like the Packers? Who reaches out? Like, how does the process even work? It's not like Matt LaFleur calls you and goes, hey.
No, it's usually
someone calls your agent, right?
They text them or call them, and then they'll call you.
Okay.
So I had a text from my agent first, who was like, yeah, the Packers are looking to have a workout with you. So I was like, okay. And then I got a call, which is a funny story because I always tell people I got it was around, what is it? The presidential everything.
The debate?
Yeah. So like, you you get all those random spam calls.
Yeah, of course.
So like I got that call and I had already gotten a bunch. So I hung up. And they called me back again, so I was like, okay, I should probably answer this one.
Oh God!
Why would the same phone number call me?
Yeah.
So then I called, and it was the Packers. I was like, oh, that could have been really bad had I not answered this call. So then, it was one of the recruiting guys telling me, we're gonna fly you out tomorrow and we want you to assign to our practice squad. So that was how that whole thing kind of went about.
So when you got signed to the practice squad, it was already like you're for sure going to be here for how long? Did they give you any kind of promises?
Practice squad is a beast in its own. It's like that's your week contract.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like the smallest one that they can kind of pick or drop.
It's from a week to week type.
Oh, it's week to week.
Yeah.
And
like you could be here 1 week and not be here the next week.
And there's 10 guys?
They think there's like 16 now.
They expanded it.
Yeah, made it bigger.
Okay, so when you move here for something like that, I'm still just curious as far as like how you have any kind of personal life. Like I was talking to my friend Kim, who's taking some photos and stuff off mic, and she was like, "How do people even date when they're in this situation?" Because like, well, you find a girl and you're like, "Well, I'm going to be leaving probably, but then I might be back in 3 months, but I don't know."
Yeah.
Like, how does anybody have a personal life? How do you build friendships outside of the organization when you have no idea where you're going to be? You have no stability.
You don't. That first 2 weeks I was here, I didn't leave my apartment. Like, not my apartment. I stayed at the hotel, the Delta over there. Stayed there for like 2 weeks. And the only time I left my apartment was to go to the stadium or to go get some food. And otherwise I was in there studying, trying to learn the playbook. But
sure,
there was no outside world at all.
Okay. Well, at what point then do you decide, like, I guess I should sign a lease somewhere for an apartment? You wait until you get a contract or what?
I mean, I got one. I tried to find the shortest lease I could.
Sure.
Just because obviously they'll only keep you in the hotel like for free for 2 weeks.
Sure. And you were still on the practice squad when you signed a lease somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you had confidence.
I mean, it's not that. It's just we literally measured it out, and it's like it would be the same if I just stayed in the hotel and I paid it myself versus getting a lease. It literally cost the same amount. So me and my mom literally tried to balance it out and how like what would be the most, because I did think about just staying in the hotel and just paying like until I either leave or whatever. But I tried to find the smallest lease that I could in order to find somewhere to sleep. So it was what it was at that point.
Yeah, at least you didn't have to be homeless, I guess.
Yeah.
At what point did you when was it? It was during the season, but at what point did you get moved up and sign a contract? I know you signed like the rest of the year, and then the following year, that's when it's like, okay, I'm fully on now and I can expect to actually be here for a bit. When was it that happened?
That was December, I think. I want to say it was like early December or something like that against Detroit, when we played Detroit, because my first game was against the Eagles, and that was just, you get to be moved up from the like you can like.
Did you play, like actually get on the field and play some special teams or what was your main role then? Obviously it must have been special teams, I suppose.
I played both actually.
Okay.
I played fullback and then fullback, tight end, and then also played a lot of special teams.
Sure. So now that you're kind of in that position, where do you like want to be? Because you did, I guess, for one, why did they decide they were just going to make you a tight end if you had never played that? What was it? You have any idea? They're just like, this guy's just too good of an athlete. I mean, like Tim Tebow.
I kind of figured I was going to be a tight end for NFL purposes, just because I knew I didn't really have that receiver 4.4 lower speed that most people have.
Sure.
And then as far as like my size and like as far as like build and everything, they're like, you'd be perfect for like the H-back type. That's that's what I was hearing, like the whole like NFL draft process, like in between January to May. It's like, you'd be like, you're going to be like that H-back tight end fullback role, which was kind of what I got ready for as I was training for this. And then obviously when I got here, I was already kind of like my role, or not my role, but like how people saw me was a tight end. So
Sure.
I kind of figured like that was going to happen anyway. I played a little bit of tight end at Indiana State. Like our coach would joke and be like, "You're really our best tight end, but you're not a tight end." So I was like, I kind of figured like I was going to have to
Sure.
get more into that role as if I wanted to play.
I always thought it was really funny when I see like athletes go all the way through college playing a position, and then an NFL team's just like, you know, that experience playing that position, that's just not for you anyways. And they just like switch you. I feel like it to me, it's just mind blowing that like, how could this be your best position if they didn't play you at that position before? You know, they expect you to go into it at an NFL level and just like learn a new position and be good at it.
I mean, the way you explain it, it sounds really crazy, but I mean, it's not as hard as you would think.
Sure.
It's just you got to kind of train your body differently, train your mind differently, and it's just like learning. You kind of have to learn the basics of it.
Sure.
So it's like even playing tight end, I had to learn how to be in a 3-point stance. Never really learned. Like I hadn't played fullback since I was like in 4th grade maybe or something like that.
Sure.
So even learning how to block, how to be in a 3-point stance, how to like the terminology of being a tight end is obviously 100% different, and like everything you kind of have to know everything. Like you have to know what the line knows, receivers know.
Yeah.
You have to know what your running back's doing, like which way he's going, where his aim and point is going. So you just have to like train your mind as well as your body just differently. And then again, a lot easier said than done, but
sure.
It's definitely capable. That's why you see like a lot of quarterbacks play tight end in the league. It's just the way your body's built, and then like your athletic background, and of course just knowing the game of football.
Yeah, you've been playing forever.
Yeah.
So now that you're like in the living situation here, what does it normally look like on a day-to-day now that you're a little bit more cemented? Is your friend group kind of exclusively other players, or like what do you do? You mentioned you're going to go golfing probably, but your day can't be exclusively just football year round all the time, I wouldn't think.
When I'm here, kind of.
Well, okay, I suppose.
But obviously when I'm elsewhere, I have home or friends from back home.
Sure.
Like when I'm back in Nashville training, I've met some good people down there. I mean, you're when you're traveling so much, like you're able to meet a lot of people, and of course, playing football for so long, you meet certain people from any place. Like I was down in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, met up with my old teammate from Indiana State.
Sure.
And also, obviously, my brother played basketball in college, so his old teammates live down there too. So it's like you can really go anywhere and you can find people you know, which is what's so crazy about playing sports. It's like your network is now worldwide. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously when I'm here, it's usually teammates and but I mean, I've tried to find people, but I'm like, I'm good. I like my teammates. Yeah, sure. I think we're pretty like we have a good time together.
Well, and it's hard when you don't have anything in common with other people. If your life is like so centralized around football, it's kind of hard to talk to other people that do other things and have like a lot to talk about. I mean, with what I do, and not to cut you off, but what I do, like being an entrepreneur, if I talk to other people that aren't in kind of a similar mindset, it's hard because I don't really understand their perspective and there's not much to talk about. Like if I talk to somebody who just has like kind of a regular corporate job, I have nothing to talk about with them. I sit there struggling, like looking at them like, well, so I'm doing this thing, and they're like, neat. You know what I mean? There's like not that excitement.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess it's just also like our days are different compared to everybody else. So like during the season, like what is everyone's hardest days? Like in like regular like 9 to 5 people, what are their hardest days?
Mondays, but Mondays are your day off.
Mondays are our day off. Monday, Tuesday are our day off. So it's like when everyone's back to work, we hate Mondays. Tuesday's so tough. I'm chilling. I don't have anything to do. So it's like I can't. I've literally asked. I've met some people here. I was like, hey, you want to go do something? It's like, no, I'm working right now. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So it's like when they're chilling, we're working. When we're chilling, they're working.
Right. Do you have much time to do really anything else during the season? Or do you just not really have other hobbies or other interests during the season because you're so focused on it?
Well, I mean, the last 2 years it was kind of tough to find hobbies, I would say. At least for me, just because like first year I was here, I was so trying to figure out the playbook. As well as COVID, we couldn't really go anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
And then last year there was still a hint of like the COVID stuff.
Sure.
Still testing and whatnot, so I didn't want to risk it.
Sure.
At all. So obviously this year, getting out more, doing more things, you know, trying to leave my apartment more because I was stuck here all the time.
Yeah,
so,
I think having some other things going on in your life is a good way to be able to still enjoy something that is easy to get burnt out on. And I imagine playing football and focusing on football all the time, like it's your job, right? So I imagine as fun as it is, it can get to be a bit of a burnout factor. Yeah,
but that's kind of why I've enjoyed the fact that we can hang out as a team, because we couldn't even go to each other's houses. Like we weren't allowed to do that. Yeah. So it was like we weren't able to do anything. We couldn't like go to dinner, go to a movie, whatever. Go to the driving range. We couldn't do anything. We would literally just be in our houses. Like I know I'm bored when I turn my PS4 on.
Yeah.
Like that's how I know I'm bored. I mean, like I like to play video games sometimes, but like that's not my main thing. But it's like I know I'm bored if I'm sitting here playing 2K or Madden. Like I really have nothing. Yeah,
feeling bored is a feeling I don't really get because I have 2 kids, right? So if the TV's on, it's them. So between kids and I paint all the time and my show, and then I own my skateboard shop, it's kind of like I always have a list. Yeah. Like I never have I never have time where I don't have things that I have to get done. Yeah. So I'm always working on stuff. Yeah. I don't really get bored, and I don't really watch TV anyways. Getting back to football, where are you at as far as like the general path of where you want to be? Like I know you're playing tight end. Is that like really what you want to for sure be forever doing it? What kind of role do you want to have? Obviously you'll do what like the coaches ask you to do, right? But like long term, where do you see yourself? Like what do you want to do?
I mean, if we're speaking true goals here, like I want to be a Pro Bowl fullback. Like I want to go to the Pro Bowl for either fullback or tight end. Like I feel like that's my highest goal. Yeah. Obviously winning a Super Bowl is definitely even higher than that, but
of course
that's more of a team thing. But if I'm speaking personally, like obviously I know my role is to be a tight end, to be the best fullback I can be, so I want to be the best that I can be. And obviously getting awarded going to the Pro Bowl is saying you're one of the best in the league. That's something that I want. I see dudes doing that, and I see like just the vicinity that we all are in, and it's like I think locking in and being able to do something like that it's definitely high on my list.
You could see yourself ascending to that point. Yeah. You use the like fullback and tight end fairly interchangeably. When I think of like John Kuhn as our fullback before, like I don't picture him as a tight end at all, right?
Fullbacks aren't really the same anymore. Right. Even Rob Tunyon has played fullback before, or fullback. Okay. Like they're kind of like in the same. They're not really like one, like two different things anymore.
For the average person that doesn't follow football as much, how do you describe the differences between the two positions? Because I personally,
fullback, you're like in the backfield in front of the running back.
Right.
Like that's the only difference.
Okay, versus lining up like to the side of the tackle.
That's honestly the only that's the only difference anymore. Is like whether you're in the backfield or whether you're next to the tackle or another tight end.
Sure, but otherwise it's the same. Okay, now I understand. Yeah. So, but how many tight ends go to the Pro Bowl and how many fullbacks go to the Pro Bowl? Because isn't it just like
one fullback and there's I want to say 2 tight ends on each side.
So you only got 3 chances in the NFC. All right.
It is what it is.
We're going to make it, dude. I
didn't say it'd be easy, you know.
We're going to make it.
I did not say it. None of this is easy, so.
No, we're going to make it because I'm going to be wearing this Dafney jersey everywhere, and people are going to know who that is. They're not going to ask me, well, who's that? I'll be like, it's this dude that I interviewed that's dope, who caught a touchdown before. You're going to catch a lot of touchdowns, and then you're going to make it to the Pro Bowl. Anyways, it's time to get to the time of the show. When you do something that you're really passionate about, it's not usually like money-related experiences that like, you know, are the most meaningful to you. You usually get to have a lot of really cool ones. For me, this is a pretty dope one, getting to meet a Packers player in person and actually do work rather than just like go to a signing or something. Can you share a unique experience of a story something that happened to you that you're really grateful for, but it only happened because you chose to pursue football?
Honestly, I think one of the coolest experiences I had, which was eye-opening, was going to tight end U last year, being invited to tight end U, not because I was invited, like obviously like it was cool to go, but just to be able to be around some of the best players in the league
And tight end used like thrown by George Kittle?
Yeah.
Okay.
George, Greg, and Travis.
Okay.
They're the ones who put it on. But just the fact that, like, being around some of the best players in the league like that, like Mark Andrews, Darren Wallen, like all those dudes, Darren Waller, excuse me. And I just, like, it was one night where we were literally all just hanging out. And I was just, like, looked around the room at, like, some of the dudes that were there. And it was just, like, wasn't like a, obviously not I made it type of thing. It was just, like, being in, like, the presence of dudes who are highly, like, are thought highly of in this game. And being able to learn from them and take snippets from them and put it into my game.
Sure.
Like, that was probably one of the coolest experiences.
Are you familiar with the term imposter syndrome?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I think everyone feels this, and this is basically what you're talking about. But imposter syndrome is when you do something, usually that's pretty cool, but you don't, like, other people recognize that you're there, but you don't quite recognize it yet, right? Like, you'll be at something like that, and you're like, man, I'm kind of lucky to be here. And everyone else goes, no, you're supposed to be here. Was it that kind of moment of clicking where you're like, okay, so maybe I do belong hanging out with these people. They're not, like, way above anymore. They're in the same kind of table.
Yeah, I've heard some people say something similar to me like that, but I don't know, I just always have that mindset of, like, I'm working to get here.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to keep that mindset, because as soon as, like, you get to thinking, like, this is where I'm supposed to be,
get complacent.
that's exactly when you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because that's when you, like, that complacency locks in and everything. But I always feel like there's just more. Like, I want to get to the level, and if I get to the level, however you want to say it, I'll still find a level that I want to reach higher. It's just because there's always more to want in life. There's always more to want in this game, and in myself, there's always more to want. So
yeah, I mean, unless you have a ring every single year in your first bowl, Pro Bowl, and even then, there's probably something that you want. I mean,
Tom Brady's still going, and he's got 7. So
yeah, that blows my mind every year that he comes back.
So I'm like, he still wants more. There's always more to be wanted.
I just don't want us to lose to him anymore. So I'm like, every year, my brother-in-law is a huge Patriots fan because he's from that area, and every year, well, now obviously he's with the Bucs, but it was like, dude, could you just retire? Like, can you stop winning every year? I want someone else to win. But I think surrounding yourself by like-minded people that are doing what you want to do, they're in the position you want to be in. That's the easy. I don't want to say easy, but that's the best way to elevate yourself, to be in that position, because you can get in that mindset.
That was half the reason that I went out to Nashville to train with him. It's just because when I'm back home, I don't really have anyone to push me.
Right.
Like, I'm just there working out by myself, which, I mean, was fine because I could be, like, in my own mental space. But just being around other, like you said, like-minded people who are not only going to push themselves but push me because I want to be like them, or I want to be better than them, or challenge myself to be better than them, or challenge myself to do what they're doing and live in the lifestyle they live, whether it's mental, physical, whatever. Like, that was exactly what I needed, versus just making sure I'm doing things all right. I mean, you know, you can always learn something from anybody. So being able to be there and, like, lift alongside those guys, work out around them, and just get, like, even little things, just learning how they train and how they recover from stuff. Like, it's different. Like, it's just some things, like, you would never heard of if you don't see it.
Sure.
So it's just, like, getting those small things that you don't, like, you wouldn't normally learn or you wouldn't normally see. I've definitely been blessed to be around that type of group.
Since moving here, who has been, obviously, like, it sucks to say who's the most important person, because then you're not including all the other people that helped. But if you had to pick one person since you moved here that's been, like, the most helpful as far as your personal growth, whether it be a coach or a player, who's it going to be?
Well, I mean, the easy route would be to say, like, anybody in the tight end room.
Sure.
So I won't say that because that's obvious. Like, I see those are the guys I see every day, all day, every day. So that's easy. If I had to say someone else, it would probably be Aaron Jones.
Oh, cool. Do you guys hang out a lot, or how did he push you?
We just talk to each other a lot. And,
oh, sure. Like the encouragement.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, on one of my vacations, I had a bunch of people ask me if I was Aaron Jones.
Because of the hair, or what?
I assume so. I couldn't think of any other reason. We don't really look alike, but of course we call each other twin now.
Sure. You got to carry around the Wheaties box or whatever.
Like, that's not me.
The Oakleys.
Something like that. But no, he's just, his mindset, his work ethic, and just the way he carries himself on and off the field. Like he's like, even coming in, like he was one of the first dudes to come up to me and introduce himself. And like, it was just wild because it's like, he's probably one of the most personable superstars you'll ever meet.
You know, I think that stuff matters a lot, though. I've talked to a lot of fairly successful people, and one thing I've noticed with a lot of them is they are extremely personal and nice. Mm-hmm. And I thought kind of before that people would kind of be standoffish, and then it clicked, and I realized, no, people don't want to work with people like that. You know, those personal relationships actually,
well when you're like that.
That's what I'm saying. Those personal relationships matter a lot. So building that relationship as like friendship to a certain degree with your colleagues and whatnot, that's a lot of times where then all of a sudden everything else moves forward with it. You know what I mean? As far as mistakes go, though, I think that's like when we learn things the quickest is when you make a mistake. Hopefully it's not, you know, dropping a touchdown pass, which, you know, you caught that one, which was tight. But we all make mistakes, and then that's how you learn from them the fastest. If you could tell a story of a mistake you made that somebody listening might be able to benefit from, what story can you tell us?
I think I don't necessarily have an exact story, like one time.
Sure.
But like, I know 2 mistakes that I've stopped doing completely would be, you know, just trying to control every situation. Like when you are, like you say, like a top dog back from where you're high school or whatever, like you're used to like not necessarily getting things, like getting everything you want, but working to make things happen.
Yeah.
And like trying to like, if I want something, I'm going to work for it and go get it. Like at this level, you can only control so much sometimes. Like you can only control what you can control. So you can't always force everything to happen the way you want it. Like there are top dogs who get traded. There are top dogs who get cut. And it's like sometimes like things just happen that are outside of your control. You get hurt. You know, you can't control everything. So you just have to control what you control with what you have, and like make sure you're bringing what you can control to the table every day in order to make yourself better. So that's definitely one. And then 2 is not asking questions. Cause like, even if it's it could be the smallest question. Like what's like, I literally remember I asked, my old tight end coach, we were in the receiver room, the tight end room. And I asked him, I was like, Coach, I have a question. He was like, what's up? He's like, and I just asked him like, how do you watch film? Because it's like, as a receiver, watching film is so much different than a tight end watching film.
Yeah.
So it's like he's talking and they're all looking at stuff and they're preparing, and I'm like, what are you guys even looking at? Like, how are you reading this? Yeah. What are you looking for? Like, it's just one of those small questions that open up a huge window for me. So it's just like, no question is too small. There are no such thing as dumb questions. That is true, because even if you don't, like, if you don't know, someone else might not know. And it's just like, even if you, like, it is a small question, everybody knows, at least now you know.
Right.
You know, at least you're not sitting here questioning yourself at home. Oh, I should have asked him. Yeah. Like, I just ask questions now just because, like, even if it's something big, even if something he's told us 30 times, like, I might as well ask or have you tell me 31 times and me get it wrong once on the field. Because then now we're going to have a different conversation when I get that messed up. You're gonna be like, I told you this 30 times. How come you didn't remember? I'd rather ask it one more time and him tell me 31 times than to get it wrong on the field. And then now you got everybody screaming at you. Like, that's not, like, you just ask that question, whatever it is, ask it, because you're better off knowing than trying not to burden somebody by asking a question that might be too small or too simple or whatever.
Well, and think about it. If it only got you 1% better at what you do, think about how many hours you would put in the gym to be 1% better.
Yeah.
Like, pretty significant amount, right? And so when people let the embarrassment factor of, like, I don't want to look stupid by asking this, stop them, you're letting something stop you that doesn't have to.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're at a level of, like, I want to give my whole life and career to this, something like the NFL, or really that applies to a lot of things, artwork or anything else, like, you need to give it 100%. You need to give absolutely everything. You need to have that humility to say, well, I don't know everything. Even this thing you may think I know, I might not. So I need to make sure I know this before I can move on to the next level. And it's hard sometimes when you feel established to a certain degree to admit that, like, I'm kind of a noob when it comes to this thing, you know, but having that humility, I think you gain a lot of respect with people that way too. You know what I mean?
It's even just like, even if it is a small question or something, it's just like the conversation.
Yeah.
Like showing that you care enough to ask questions and to just have that conversation with whoever it is.
Yeah.
Like it could be one question that could lead to like a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
Like you don't know where it'll take you. You could learn so much more by literally asking one question, because then he says this, but then but then why would I do this if this happens? And it's just like you could learn so much more from simply just like one little question.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works. I've had it plenty of times where it's like, okay, but if the defender does this, why would I do that? Or because I do this, how would I do that? And it's just like just the what and whys. Like it all leads somewhere. You got to learn it all, so you might as well start the conversation.
I think that's where you get the mentorship like actually happening too, right? When you show that humility and you get somebody on your side that knows something and you're like, hey, I don't know everything. You could help me with this. That gets their brain thinking too and going like, oh, I could help Dom with this, I think. And they know that you're open to the help. And then they're going to reach out and those types of opportunities happen more often. You know what I mean? It's like a domino effect in that kind of way.
I've definitely seen that happen, because like I started asking everybody questions in our tight end room, and like even now, like I get advice and like coaching from whether it was Bob, Josiah, anybody, just because like they'll come back to the sideline and talk to us about what happened and why it happened or whatever, or what could happen. And I do the same thing. Like versus like, why did you do this? I did this because I saw, or I reacted to whatever happened. And it's just like something that just goes back and forth. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I don't want to take all your day because I know you wanted to go golfing.
It is pretty nice outside.
It's fantastic. You can see it in the background, and we're sitting inside, which is a tragedy. One more time, how can people go follow you? How can they see the things that you've done besides just like highlight reel, and how could they reach out and ask a question if they had something to ask you?
Obviously Instagram. It's just Dominique Dafney on both Instagram and Twitter. Like you'll be able to find me.
It's got the little blue check.
Blue check, big smile in there. It's me.
How can people best support you moving forward?
Best support me.
Go get jerseys made.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool to see some 49s out here. But I don't know. I guess just I'm always a person who's likes to show love. So show love, show support. I mean, in whatever way you can. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But
go to the game, hold a big sign.
Of course.
Daphne, number one.
Of course.
Pro Bowl this season.
Of course.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. This was kind of like a little dream come true in a mini form. I mean, I shouldn't say mini form. I shouldn't downplay it. This is actually really dope. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.